Nice. How are you doing today, Scott? And I'm sure large part of North America is cold right now. Oh yeah, I woke up. The front can hang. It's really chilly. Your front, we have an old house. Yeah, the windows are probably the copper of our. Because of that, our house is not stay super warm. It's so cold for me. I have a hard time. Just can't keep up. Oh boy, we just got a new door. We have super old. We have new walls, new windows. How nice warm it is. Going around in a kind of spray phone. I don't know. It's so silly how this old house are built. No insulation to hit a house like this. I'm dying to financially. We can't get our window replaced. What a bum! How expensive! Let's talk old man. What a bummer! Windows and doors. And I can't believe it. So you can buy a new car or get windows in your house. Cause I know it's gonna make me. It's gonna be like a. Oh boy! Alright, today we are talking about async await and flow control. We double in the async await entire show to explaining what async await is, how we use it, some best practice. Probably my favorite topic is error handling. A lot of exam try catch. I just did it. You may put me on Twitter at .js back December's 15 minutes a single wait. I can go through it. You still looking for more uh, as well, but so let's kick it off. Let's and talk about flow control in general. When you have to do a couple of things, whatever. That's because JavaScript by nature is typically asynchronous. It won't sort of freeze up entirely stop your entire program. Whenever you need to do work, it kicks off a process and they will moves along with next PHP or something like this. If you have code that needs to run top to bottom, you need to fetch some data by default. Anything like that, it goes just stop the code from running and moves on from next line. It's going to kick off and the next line of code underneath that immediately run rather than wait for that line to be done. That's why flow control in JavaScript asynchronous. We have Node.js back into running the initial talk why he chose JavaScript. This new server-side entirely asynchronous is fantastic. It's very hard to run any bytecode could block the thread, block the process as they say, which is great. It's kinda hard to read code in the past. The solution to that were when you have callback as the callback is for a long time. A callback is essentially a function that gets passed in of a function and that function then runs upon the completion. Whatever the action it is, you go to your API, the result is returned. The argument of that function is that being run. That actually was a nice little solution, maybe for a couple seconds. Multiple call, multiple different services, common callback hell. you keep a callback within a callback. The code in then like 10 lines deep. It's super confusing for track down. You want to access this for a variable inside that callback variable, this whatever, something like that. Especially we don't have the error functions, but that equals to clear. Just set number 6 to grab the variable is just not a good time. Specifically, having code that's using on here there, people talk about the callback hell. I don't know what's better about it. This is nice to me. It works fine. You have to deal with that. The actual, I get it. I'm ready for something better. Because of that, so when they sort of coming out there, I get around the time various libraries, Promise, Q, Looper, there were several different libraries called Promise, which a promise instead of have this function, a promise is sort of a state of the result. You run the function using a dot then or dot catch for error, using be able to, this is the first step, this is the next step, this is the next step in one line instead of step within the step. I was promising a sort of error you some data eventually, some rather than the function running immediately. It gives you sort of IOU you can listen to. Event listen when someone click do when promise when the data comes back dot then run when something bad happen then catch. This is how we can habit a lot of our flow control issues. Stop looking like callback how just go into then you can change these promises as long as you want. It's a lot more readable for your ability to read a top from the bottom. Let's shift for a long time. Promises is definitely they solve the problem in much more than callback state. Now we have async await. Async await is basically, in my opinion, is promises working better with syntax. It is promises. Async await is simply just a syntax on top of existing promises. The flip side to the listening to, you write functions that will immediately return in the future, making work with Wikimedia. If we cancel, we are not cancel. Yeah, this is where how we arrived at today. We have tons of options. We have native option. We have package option. All of this stuff control your flow. The best ever been make it in our ecosystem. Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into how essentially. Rather than have a .z, what you simply do, you put in front of your function that return a prompt. We have a function get the weather with a return at some point, or either return you error or error out something. But what we used to go get the weather parentheses, and then you tag it .then onto it. When that promises is resolved, the code will run. That's great. We talk about it still kind of callbacky. Have put your sub inside of the then async await. Put the word await in front of the promise. Temporarily pause that function. freeze that line of code until that promise is either resolved or rejected, will continue to run. The catch here, only await a promise function that has to be inside another function which marked as async, pointing the word async before you find in a function. And I love syntax speed, like you mentioned. It's not polar in sort of modern. It's simply just essentially pausing your code. Hey, wait a second, we wait this stuff for compile. Or waiting, here it is. To me, it's just even a wait. Sitting there and right there. It's waiting on this to come back. I absolutely let the syntax solve all of the issues I had with promises. Too much extra code to be makes me sense and simple. The JavaScript, first time I want to write this code a sequence. You need the promises, concept of promises, get the whole then this sort of stuff. With a wait, you take simply think a wait on these things, a wait on these things. Another cool thing, you can put a variable in front of a wait. Eventual date that come back with the promise const whether equal to a wait, they will get a whether whenever the function go in the when that promise is resolved, like sunny and 28 degrees. That's on your left hand side. There is no callbacks or any of that symptom top to bottom, which is great, which is often when one start learning programming. What a three thing: first alert, confirm. All those three things are entirely synchronous because they pause the flow of JavaScript from running, callback or anything like this. But the downside to that, people think I need to get some data now, it will just pause. Actually, no, the whole being asynchronously, just wait on this data come back. I kind of wish that confirm will go asynchronously. We could just show somebody that if you try to prompt from them data, a line of code underneath it won't do it unless you pull it away. I kind of wish that could build my own as well. It is funny because I never thought about it. Right off the bat, just instantly say, oh, the first thing you learn is come in this, but it's a liar for. So yeah, I think it will be to go that way. Good luck with that one. Exactly. Let's take a break. Talk about our sponsor. That will be Unperformance. Wait, it is possible to write bad code. Let's say, for example, I want two pieces. I want to find whether a list of those two things have nothing to do with each other. It doesn't make sense for me to get the weather and wait for when the weather is bad. Then I then come by and then deal with it. They can be slow. You start take 1 second. Ideally, you fail both of the exactly same time, and when both done, then you can finally move on to the third step to the user. So the nice thing about this, you can take your weather promise, you can take your store promise, put these two things in just a promise variable. You wrap them in a promise.all. It sort of make a mega promise. Hey Scott, let's talk about mega promise. Cause we do have this thing Google it and nothing comes up. Alright, it was a mega promise. It's a promise that made up other many promises. The beauty of the itself will return a promise, resolve itself. After all of them have been successfully resolved, 4 pieces of data have been resolved. It's pretty neat. You can simply just await promise.all. These 2 pieces of data are written array. What I immediately destruct this to a constant. Square bracket weather, comma, weather store. I don't know, but you know. When we have a 2 variable as performance, be aware not going really need unnecessarily awaiting things. If they can run exactly time, stick this illustrate something we haven't touched. Misconception about it is that it's not necessarily return for a promise. It is a promise. It can be used with a promises. This is you said you were using a single, but you are using promises that going the same time. You are waiting it. It's just a single wait. To do that because a single wait doesn't necessarily have this at the same time or something. Again, a single wait just using promises underneath at all. Really Keller T more so